What's going on, everybody? Akem here, and today I wanted to talk to you about L&M Fine Jewelry. The L stands for Landy, the M stands for Michael, and the An stands for their son, Carson, or as he jokingly says, it stands for Carson. It's a family-owned jewelry company. It's your diamond destination. I know it's my destination. I went there to get my fiance's engagement ring. They took great care of me. Their customer service is amazing. They're very attentive to what you need and what you're looking for, and they know exactly how to get you that. And also, their communication is top notch. They take great pride in taking good care of their customers. They took great care of me and my fiance every time we went in there. Great smiles on all their faces. They do a great job. If you're in the Missoula area, or even if you're in the state of Montana, you have to drive over to Missoula, come to L&M Fine Jewelry, get that ring for that special person. It's your diamond destination.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Akem here, and I'm back with another one. Today, I got a great video for you guys today. Got a lot of good topics to tackle. There's some decent things going on in the FCS, some good things going on in college football. We're going to be talking about Montana, their nationally televised game against UC Davis. We're going to be talking about Stephen F. Austin going back to the Southland Conference. Is that good? Is that bad? We'll discuss that. We'll also discuss, following that, Stephen F. Austin canceled their home-and-home with Montana State. We're going to talk a little bit about that. The NCAA Rules Committee is meeting next week to discuss schools being able to display patches on their jerseys, on the fields, sponsorship, money, what we've been talking about all offseason, money. Sam Herder dropped his top 5 returning FCS wide receivers in 2024. We're going to look at that list. Zack McKinnell dropped his top 10 returning FCS running backs in 2024. I got some beef with that list. Got a lot of love for Zack McKinnell and Sam Herder, but we're going to talk about that. And then last thing, I had a question that I wanted to ask about FCS quarterbacks and rivalries. So I'll save that for the end, but make sure you guys hit the like, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, make sure you guys leave me a comment down below of what you guys think, and we will get straight into the video. Okay, first things first. Montana is going to play UC Davis on national television in Waugriz in November. Now, I believe a couple of years ago, Montana signed a new ESPN deal. Not even Montana, Big Sky. The Big Sky Conference signed a new ESPN deal. That is when I believe a lot of the Big Sky teams started being shown on ESPN Plus. So that might have been like 21, or they might have signed it in like 2020, but COVID happened. So I think 21 was like when we really got to see the big effect of that. But I think with that, it might have even been like the FCS signed a new ESPN deal. But with that new deal, I think each conference, well, it might just be the Big Sky, but the Big Sky gets 2 nationally televised games on, I believe, ESPN2 or ESPNU each year. And those 2 games are going to be UC Davis against Montana, and then I believe it's Montana State versus New Mexico is the other game. I believe Montana State at New Mexico is the other game. But a lot of good things from that. Really excited. Okay, so Montana State at Idaho, actually, in October is the other nationally televised game. So the 2 nationally for the Big Sky is UC Davis at Montana and Idaho at Montana State. So 2 nationally televised games, 1 at Montana State. Obviously, I don't know the name of their stadium, but in their stadium, they pack it out. Probably be a sold-out crowd. And then obviously at Montana, you can expect to see a sold-out crowd. UC Davis, people know what they bring to the table. I think last time UC Davis actually came to Montana, they beat us. I don't know. I believe the last time they came was 2019. Montana started out hot. I was on that squad. No, 2018 actually. 2018. That was 2018. I think that was 2018. We started out really hot. Got up. I think we were up like 22-0 because I think we went for 2. And in the second half, they just kind of, slowly but surely came back and took the game over. They had their quarterback. Can't remember what their quarterback's name was. I think it was Kevin Thompson at that time. No, not even Kevin Thompson, because I think Kevin Thompson was Sac State. I can't remember who their quarterback at UC Davis was, but he was a really good player, kind of an older player. And then they had a really good receiver, Keelan Doss. He's still in the NFL. I can't remember what team he's with right now. I think he might be with the Jets, might be with the Chargers, maybe Raiders. He's been on a couple of teams, but he's in the NFL right now. Keelan Doss, really good receiver for the Big Sky, tore it up for a couple of years. But really exciting. I also believe with this new deal, one thing I've like kind of confused me about this new deal, not even this new deal, but like this deal that puts 2 Big Sky teams on national television each year. what took them so long to come to Montana? Obviously, Montana has the best stadium in the Big Sky. Obviously, Montana has some of the best attendance in the FCS. Obviously, Montana has some of the best fan base in the FCS. Why would you wait like 3 years into the deal to put a game in Montana? Now, I don't know if that was the ESPN execs who decided that, and maybe they don't have a lot of information about the FCS, but I got to believe the Big Sky probably had a hand in that. And I talked to a friend of mine, a really close friend of mine who knows the Big Sky really well. And he talks about how he thinks that, the Big Sky Conference doesn't do a good enough job of propping up Montana and Montana State. He thinks that, they kind of try to keep it a little bit too even. They kind of try to keep it a little bit too, what am I trying to say? Like they should do a better job of propping up Montana and Montana State. Basically, like, you have these two marquee teams that are two of the blue bloods in the FCS conference. I don't know if I would say Montana State, and that's not even just bias because I don't think they've won an FCS national championship, so I don't think I can call Montana State a blue blood. Somebody in the comments can comment on that. But like, even without them being a blue blood, like, you got two of the marquee teams in the FCS division, in the FCS subdivision, and they play in the Big Sky Conference, and for some reason the Big Sky refuses to prop them up. I don't know if Montana State has had a relevant home game on national television in the regular season, but I think this might be the first time that they have, as well. So coming to Montana, both of the nationally televised games in the Big Sky are coming to Montana this year. Really exciting news. One question I had for myself is, do these games help prop up the FCS? And I believe they do. Just the games that are on the top of my head, I can't so much remember what some of the nationally televised games were in the past. I think Montana at Sac State was one of them in 2022. But just thinking about like the Montana at Idaho in 2023, that was a really good football game. Came down to the wire. I believe that was on ESPN2. Really good football game. And then you got Montana at Eastern Washington in 2021. Really, really good football game. Came down to the last throw of the game. Really back and forth. Two really highly touted. I think Eastern Washington was like number 3 at that point. I think Montana was number 4 at that point. Really, really good game. You guys can tell me some more in the comments, but I personally do think these games do a good job of propping up the FCS. I would honestly like to see more FCS games on national television, because I think that's one of the biggest reasons why the brand isn't as strong as it should be. Is because like we're playing good football at the FCS level. There's a lot of good talent at the FCS level. I think there's a lot of good football games going on at the FCS level, but the exposure is not there. And obviously, exposure comes with notoriety, with money. Like, it's all about money. And is an FCS team going to bring in more money than a G5 team? I don't know. And honestly, asking that question, like, I would like to see the numbers on if an FCS team brings in more eyes than a G5 team. Like, if you put them on a split cast, not even a split cast, but like if one was playing on FS1 at the same time as one's playing on ESPN, like a G5 and an FCS school, what do the numbers look like? I would love to see that. I would really love to see that, because I don't know. But I'm excited that Montana State are going to be on national television in the regular season. I think they chose some pretty good games to put them on national television. The Idaho at Montana State, I think that could be a really, really good game. And then UC Davis at Montana, I think that could be a really good game. UC Davis getting Land Larison back. They have their quarterback returning as well. Not so sure what their pieces on the outside or defensively look like, but I think UC Davis will be a pretty good outfit. I expect Idaho to be a pretty good outfit. I think Idaho could really win the conference, not only because I think they're going to be a good team, but also because I think their schedule is pretty favorable. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later when we talk about Stephen F. Austin dropping Montana State's home and home. But you guys let me know what you guys think about Montana and Montana State finally having home nationally televised games in the regular season. Obviously, we know they've had televised games in the playoffs at home or away, whatever it is. But in the regular season, I believe this is the first year that both Montana and Montana State are going to be playing on national television at home. At home. The distinction is at home. Obviously, they've played in national television on the road before, but I don't think there's been a regular season. I know at Montana, in this new recent ESPN deal, there hasn't been a Montana home game on regular season Montana home game on national television, which I don't know why you would wait so long to do that, but I'm glad it's finally here. I'm excited to see what the product looks like. I'm excited for both teams. I'm excited for the Big Sky Conference. I'm excited for everybody involved. So you guys let me know in the comments what you guys think about that, and we will move on. Okay. Stephen F. Austin has accepted a bid to rejoin the Southland Conference for the 2024-2025 season. So I think that goes into effect right now. They were 3-7 in 2023. They played in the United Athletic Conference in 2023. They were not very good in 2023. Obviously, I don't know what so much goes into a move like this. I don't think the UAC is bringing in much money. If I had to guess just off an optics standpoint, I would think that, the Southland Conference is probably bringing in more money than the United Athletic Conference, but, I'm not a professional. I'm looking up Stephen F. Austin's record right now to see, just to see what their standings were. So obviously, I can't see. So yeah, here we go. I look up their standings and the Southland Conference pops up, obviously because they're part of the Southland Conference now. But I wanted to see, how things went for them last year. So they played against Eastern Kentucky, lost to them by 12. They played against Southern Utah, former Big Sky foe. They lost to them bad, almost by 30. I think they lost by 28. They played Tarleton, who was a pretty good team in the UAC conference last year. They lost by 40. They played ACU, who I think ACU might have been like 1-10 last year. I think they might have been like one, or like ACU. No, they were 5-6, so not great, not terrible. ACU, they lost to them by a touchdown. Central Arkansas, who was, I think they were second in the United Athletic Conference, they lost to them by 3. So some of these games, they're playing them pretty tight, but Tarleton, Southern Utah got beat down by them. Texas A&M Commerce, who just moved up, they beat them by almost 30. Austin Peay, who won the conference, the United Athletic Conference in 2023, they lost to them by 2. Tough game right there. Northwestern State, who was not a good team, and Northwestern State, I don't think even played the whole season last year. They beat them by, I don't even know, like 20 or 30. Alcorn State, they beat them by 28, and then they lost to Troy, who's an FBS team. So, kind of beating the bottom feeders of the United Athletic Conference last year. In the Southland Conference, I would say, is a better conference. So I'm very interested to see. Like, I would really love to know what sparked this move. Like, what made them think, like, we're in the United Athletic Conference, which I don't think is a very good conference in terms of FCS competition. I think there's much better conferences. The SoCon, I would take over the United Athletic. I would take them over both of these conferences: the SoCon, the CAA, the Big Sky, the Missouri Valley, maybe even the Patriot. I would definitely take the Patriot over. There's a lot of better conferences. Now the NEC, that's a different subject, but we don't have to get in the conference. Like, we don't have to talk about the conferences right now. But just looking at this Southlands Conference, you got Nicholls State, who won the conference last year, 7-0 in conference play, but was 6-5. Like, overall, they did have a forfeited game, so that's why the discrepancy in 7-0 in conference play, but 6-5 overall. You got Incarnate Word, who was 8-2, not a playoff team, but 8-2 last year, which is honestly crazy. Like, that they weren't a playoff team. It's honestly crazy. That is really wild. But I don't think, like, what I'm trying to get at is, like, I don't think this conference is like a very good conference to begin with. The United Athletic Conference. The Southland, I think, has some decent talent with Nicholls and Incarnate Word. I think Sela has had some good years as well. I think it'll be interesting, too, with McNeese getting clipped in McDowell now. What do they look like? Adding, obviously, Stephen F. Austin into the mix. You had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now there's 9 teams in the conference. I don't know if Northwestern State, like, I don't know what their situation is like. I got to believe they're still going to play this year, but, Texas A&M Commerce in that conference. I think it's a decent conference, but I don't know if that conference, like Central Arkansas, I think is a good outfit. Austin Peay, good team. I think there's some good comparable competition in both conferences. I don't know what sparked them to leave, but I'm going to read a little bit about it. Stephen F. Austin University Department of Athletics has accepted an invitation to join the Southland Conference as a full-time member effective July 1 this year. We are in a dynamic new era of college athletics, said Michael McBroom, Stephen F. Austin's Director of Athletics. We need stability, but also bold and strategic thinking to ensure a bright future for SFA. The SLC, the Southland Conference, is a conference on the rise with visionary leadership and a strategic plan that aligns with our own goals for our athletics program and the university. This affiliation puts us in an incredibly competitive and historic athletic community, aligns us with regional peers in Texas and Louisiana, and allows us a greater opportunity to engage with our alumni, fans, and prospective students across the entire region. This was an easy decision for us in that the SLC offered us an opportunity to boldly move forward with confidence and excitement. One of my notes on there was like, to me, this does not really move the needle for them. Obviously, they were 3-7 in 2023. Looking at just, what the conference looks like in 2024, obviously, the conference doesn't determine their record. Their roster is going to determine their record, the athletes that they have. I don't know who they brought in, who left their team in 2024. But hopefully they were able to tool up. Hopefully they hit the transfer portal hard. Hopefully they got some pieces coming in that are going to be able to help them to win in the Southland Conference. I don't know much about the Southland Conference or the United Athletic Conference, to be honest. But I hope the best for Stephen F. Austin. I think they will still be the 3rd to 5th best team in the Southland Conference. Obviously, I think that's just around where they were in the United Athletic Conference in 2024. So you guys let me know in the comments what you guys think about that, and we will move on. Along those lines of our previous topic, talking about Stephen F. Austin leaving the United Athletic Conference, we are talking about Stephen F. Austin. They canceled their home and home with Montana State. Montana State will play Mercyhurst on September 21st. Now, I don't know how you juggle your schedule if you're Montana State. I don't know if the Stephen F. Austin game is now an open date, and September 21st was originally their open date, and that's where they added Stephen F. Austin. I could look at their schedule real quick, but I think this is going to be really good for Montana State. I know a lot of people have talked about that Montana State's schedule was already soft, and now it's getting softer with them adding Mercyhurst, who was not an FCS team in 2023. They're moving up to the FCS in 2024. So September 21st is not even on here yet. So that must have been their open date. And then Stephen F. Austin also is not on here. So obviously they added September. I don't know. I don't know how the logistics of them adding Stephen F. Austin. I don't really care about that. The first question I wrote on here was, does this make Montana State's non-conference schedule even easier? And if you look at their non-conference schedule, they got there's 12 games. I don't know if all Big Sky teams, I know Montana and Montana State are playing 12 in 2024, but there's going to be 4 non-conference games this year because you play 7. I'm tripping. You play 8 conference games, and you usually play 3 non-conference when you usually have 11, but this year they're playing 4. And I'm going to name the 3, now 4, because they got Mercyhurst, but you got New Mexico. I think that could be a tough game for Montana State. Say what you want about New Mexico. I think for Montana State, that could be a difficult game for them. You got Utah Tech. I think they should roll Utah Tech. And then you have Maine. Maine was they only won 3 games, if that, in 2023. So I think they should roll them. And then you add Mercyhurst. That's another easy schedule. So I do see what they're saying, with their non-conference schedule. You really have 1 out of the 4 games in your non-conference schedule that could be considered tough games. But then, to me, where I think Montana State's schedule really gets kind of difficult for them is you look at the regular season schedule. So they play Idaho in October. I think that's going to be a tough game. That's on national television. We just talked about that. They play Eastern Washington. They play Sacramento. The last 4 out of 5 games for them, I would say, are tough. I mean, their last 4 games for Montana State are tough games, are actually genuinely tough games. You got Eastern Washington on November 2nd. I think that could be a tough game. I think Eastern Washington will be better this year than they were last year. Obviously, they could put up points in 2023, but their defense did not show up at all, ever. They couldn't tackle very well. I just don't think they were a very good defensive squad in 2023. I think they should improve on that in 2024. Expect them to be a better team in 2024 than they were in 2023. Eastern Washington. Then next week, you have Sacramento State. Always a good squad. They've been one of the better teams in the Big Sky for the last 4, 5, 6 years. They are always going to play teams tough. Sacramento State after Eastern Washington. Let's go back up. You got Idaho, then you got Portland State. So I don't know really what to expect from Portland State. They got some pieces offensively. They got a quarterback, but obviously, just like I said about Eastern Washington, their defense wasn't great. We'll see about them in 2024. So I won't count them as a tough game, but that could end up being a tough game. You got Idaho. Next week, you got Portland State. Then, like I said, you got Eastern Washington. Then you got Sacramento State. Then you have UC Davis, which also could be a tough game. That's on the road. You get Sacramento State at home. You get UC Davis. Then you have Montana. Also that Eastern Washington game is on the road as well. So, a lot of people say their non-conference schedule is easy, but when I count the tough games that you would say, I count 5 in their conference schedule that are tough games. Idaho, Eastern Washington, Sacramento State, UC Davis, and Montana. Those are 5 regular conference games that are going to be tough for Montana State. And Northern Colorado, Idaho State, we'll see what they look like in 2024. But based off of past experiences, I'm not going to call those tough games. And then Portland State, I don't really know what to get from them. But those 5 that I named, Eastern Washington sees Montana State as a rival. That is always going to be a tougher game. Not always, actually, because they blow them out a lot, too. And then you got New Mexico in the regular season. In the preseason, before conference play, non-conference play, you got New Mexico. So I think Montana State probably has the toughest schedule in the Big Sky, just based off of the tough games that they have on their schedule. If you look at some of the other Big Sky teams, most of them have 3 to 4 tough games on their schedule, but Montana State is playing pretty much, besides Weber State, Montana State is playing almost all of the good teams in the conference, which is not what we've seen from them in the past. So I know fans like to get on Montana State and say, oh, their schedule is easy, oh, they don't play anybody, which in past years I would agree, they did not play everybody. But this year, looking at Montana State's schedule, if they're able to get through this schedule, especially those last 4 weeks, the last 4 weeks playing Eastern, Sac, UC Davis, Montana, in 2 of those games being on the road? Are you kidding me? Going to the red turf in Eastern Washington, playing at UC Davis in California, that'll probably be pretty good weather. So, Montana boys going to California, I think most would say they probably play good because they're used to playing in the cold weather. I don't know. Some people might play better in the cold weather. But, their schedule does not look easy to me. You can say their non-conference schedule looks easy. I would agree with that. They have 3 out of the 4 games that they're playing in their non-conference schedule are cupcakes. Utah Tech, Maine, and then Mercyhurst. So yeah, sure, they're non-conference schedule, but if you took the schedule in totality, I think it would measure up with a lot of other schedules. Just for example, let's look at Montana's schedule real quick. I think Montana has a pretty favorable schedule too as well this year. You got Missouri State, who's moving up in a couple of years, but still in the FCS right now. I believe they don't move up until next year, 2025. I think that's when Delaware moves up as well. But you got Missouri State. Delaware might have already moved up. I don't know. Missouri State, first game of the season. I think that'll be a pretty manageable game for Montana. We don't know. North Dakota, I think that's a tough game. Let's count that as 1. Morehead State. I don't think Morehead State is a really good team. Do they play in the Missouri Valley? Let me check what conference Morehead State plays in. Morehead State plays in the Pioneer League. So, conference affiliation doesn't really matter. I don't think Morehead State is a very good team. I got a young bull from Broken Arrow who plays on that team. I hope he has a really good game. Wish you all the best, young bull. Trevin Client, everybody go look out for him. But Morehead State is not a very good team. So North Dakota, we got North Dakota, 1 tough game. Western Carolina, they get their quarterback back. I think that could be a really tough game for Montana. We're counting 2. Eastern Washington, I said they were a tough game for Montana. Got to be a tough game I said they were a tough game for Montana State. Got to be a tough game for Montana. That's 3. Weber State, the next week after Eastern Washington, I don't really know what to expect from Weber State. They weren't very good last year. I'm not going to count them as a tough game right now. That could change. I'm not going to count them right now. Northern Arizona, obviously Montana lost to them last year. Some would say I should probably count them. I'm not going to count them. So we still got 3. Northern Arizona. Northern Colorado, don't even get me started. Cal Poly, don't even get me started. UC Davis, that's 4. Portland State, and then Montana State, that's 5. So Montana, if you look at their schedule, I say, if you could say I'm being a tough judge, but I say Montana has 5 tough games. You look at Idaho, I think they had 3 or 4. You look at some of the other teams, I think most of the other Big Sky teams are around 3 or 4 tough games. Montana is probably the closest related to Montana State in totality of schedule and toughness. So,
You guys know I'm a Grizz first, but I'm trying to be unbiased this season. I would really love to be very unbiased about all of this, and I think Montana State probably has the toughest schedule in the Big Sky in 2024. I really do. I'm excited to see how they're able to get through this schedule. They lost some pieces, but they really retained a lot of good weapons. I think the biggest losses they had was on the offensive line. Besides then, they should have a pretty good outfit in 2024. I'm excited to see what they're able to do with this schedule, but I just wanted to bring up the fact of people saying that Montana State had an easy schedule. You guys know I'm never a Montana State apologist. I'm always going to keep it real about them. And right now, I'm trying to be real. I think they have the toughest schedule in the Big Sky. So you guys let me know. And obviously, my last point, obviously, I don't want to look past anyone. These are just my observations. I think Montana State probably has the toughest schedule in the Big Sky. You guys let me know what you guys think about that in the comments, and we will move on. Okay, this is something I really wanted to talk about. I think this is very interesting. I think it goes along the lines with what we've been talking about with college football and the offseason and how things are shaping up. The NCAA Rules Committee meets next week to discuss permitting schools to display corporate logos on fields and perhaps patches to jerseys. Now, obviously, talk about a lot of FCS football here. This is a Power 5 topic. I love to throw some Power 5 topics in there because I think eventually these are things that could trickle down to the FCS level. So I'd love to cover some of these things. Obviously, they affect all of college football. I love talking all of college football, but these are some of the bold things that I notice when I'm doing some of my research. A year out from implementation of a revenue sharing model, the commercialization of college athletics is here. This article is by Yahoo Sports, Ross Dellinger at Yahoo Sports. He does a great job. Within the NCAA's government structure, officials are seriously considering legislative changes to permit schools to display corporate logos on their football fields. While more debate is expected next month within the NCAA Playing Rules Oversight Committee, administrators expect a resolution that opens the door for on-field sponsorships and perhaps eventually corporate patches on player jerseys. Now, I saw a lot of comments about this on Twitter. X, I still call it Twitter, but X if you call it X. People talking about how, like if you watch European football, if you watch a lot of sports, like even if you watch like WNBA, I believe they do patches. Even the NBA has a patch right here, those are sponsorships and those are sponsors that people pay. Court logos, that's sponsorships that people pay. The NCAA believes, some of these oversight committees believe that, and some of these conferences believe that there could be a lot of money to be had if they allow corporate sponsor patches on the field, corporate sponsor logos on jerseys. And that's not just one jersey, that's every player on the team. So at this point, it'll probably be 80 to 100 players on the team that are wearing that logo, getting shown on national television, wearing those logos on national television. They're getting a lot of exposure to these brands. So the money that could be made from the exposure to those brands is massive. I believe the NCAA is going to allow us to put sponsor logo on the field during the regular season, said Florida Atlantic Director Scott Strickland. That's an obvious revenue stream that has not been there in the past. Pro sports are putting patches on jerseys. That doesn't seem like something that's crazy for us to consider these days. The one thing that seems crazy to me is I think it'll be crazy to see like a litany of logos on these jerseys. Like I think it'll be crazy to see if like there's just like patches all over the jerseys. You can see like the Alabamas or the Montanas, but then everywhere else there's like, obviously this is a P5 thing, this isn't an FCS thing, I threw Montana in there, but just giving some examples. You see the team name and then everywhere else there's brands on the pants, on the jerseys. Like I think that could be crazy. Starting in fall 2025, power conference schools are permitted to share millions with their athletes, potentially as much as $22 million in a capped revenue sharing model that is a part of the consolidation of 3 antitrust cases. The concept paying players directly has schools more willing to dip into commercialization more than ever as they seek to increase revenues to offset the additional athlete compensation costs. So basically, the money, like them seeking sponsorship dollars, is sparked from teams and schools predicting that they're going to be having to pay, like compensation is going to eat up more of their budget at this point. That used to not be eaten up. Like usually it was just scholarships and the NIL was handled by people on the outside of the university. The university didn't have to worry about having money to pay athletes. At this point, now that these athletes are going to be getting paid
through the athletic departments, we need another way, we need another revenue stream. And sponsorships on the field, sponsorships on the jerseys is a big time money maker that is right there sitting in front of our face. Basically, these commissioners are saying we'd be dumb not to look into this and not to see what kind of money we can make from this, which I don't disagree. For years, the NCAA and its school-led committees have upheld various restrictions around sponsorships. For instance, a long-standing NCAA rule limits on-field advertisement displays only to companies or corporations that also hold the field or stadium naming rights. A long-standing NCAA rule limits on-field advertisement displays only to companies or corporations that also hold the field or stadium naming rights. So basically, only companies that have the field or stadium naming rights were allowed to have on-field advertisement displays. Now, I don't know if any schools have even done that in the past. Somebody would have to show me some examples, but that makes sense, and that I kind of understand that. While the exact policy change isn't clear, the expectation is that schools will be permitted to display corporate names and logos in 3 ways. At midfield, so basically like where for Montana, for example, where the Grizz logo, where the grizzly bear is, that would be a corporate sponsor. At midfield, at the 25-yard line, that would be, I believe, where those Big Sky logos are at in the Big Sky Conference. At the 25-yard line and at the other 25-yard line. The Playing Rules Oversight Group also oversees potential changes to jerseys, such as schools adding patches to a player's jersey, a la NASCAR uniforms. So, yeah, I believe with the NASCAR uniforms, there's like patches all over, sponsorship patches all over these jerseys, all over their uniforms. That is what they foresee coming in college football, in these power conferences, which would be crazy. According to those with knowledge in the space, field logos on the 25-yard line are expected to fetch at least $1 million annually for an SEC program, which is, I mean, you think about the eyes on SEC schools week in and week out during college football. I mean, it's not crazy to say that $1 million, and I think at some of probably the Georgias, the Alabamas, if any SEC school can get $1 million. Alabama, Georgia, some of those better SEC schools, LSU, could probably get even more for a 25-yard line on-field logo. I mean, it just depends on what the market looks like, but obviously there's money to be made with these on-field sponsorships, with these jersey sponsorships. Like, it's gonna become big business, I think. Jersey patches could be upward of $5 million per season or more, because that's, I mean, $5 million is crazy, but I agree with it. I understand that, because it's like when you think about 180 to 100 players wearing one brand, one logo on a jersey, getting seen on national television, especially if you're watching, who am I trying to think of? If you're watching Jalen Milroe, and every play they're showing him, especially on offense, he's getting shown every play, and you got that front view of him, and he's got that patch right there on his shoulder, just like in the NBA when they got those patches. Like you're inadvertently looking at it, you might say, "Oh, what is Wish?" Or like, "Oh, I didn't know PayPal." Like, and then you might think of PayPal. Like all these brands that you see, PayPal is just one that I remember seeing this season. But just like all these brands that you see that you don't even know you're being exposed to, like that is what the advertisers want. They want eyes on their brand, because that's going to be more notoriety, more brand recognition, just all things advertising. I mean, it's big business in college. It's always been big business, but the business is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Prideful of their tradition, it's unclear if any SEC program would swap their midfield logo for a corporate sponsorship, a risky endeavor, but also one with lucrative end. So yeah, basically the SEC, some people think, they don't know if they'll switch the midfield logo with the sponsorship, because for the FCC, it's like, man, like we're the SEC, like everybody's trying to be like us. Why would we, but if you do, you could potentially profit major dollars on the back end of that. But you guys let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. I think this was honestly inevitable. This isn't something that I had honestly thought about when I thought about like the revenue structure and just all of those changes going on in college football. But this is something that when you think about all the things that have been going on in college football in terms of money and how it's been all about money, conference realignment's been about money, the 12-team playoff is about money at the end of the day, NIL, it's all money, it's all big business. This was like almost inevitable to happen. So you guys let me know in the comments what you think about that, and we will move on. Hey, Sam Herder named his top 25 returning FCS wide receivers in 2024, and we are going to be looking at the list. Now, I'm going to pull up the list. I got some notes over here, but I'm going to pull up the list, and we will see what it's looking like. So One thing I wanted to point out, the Big Sky had 5 players on this list. The number 1 player on this list was Mr. Junior Bergen from the University of Montana. Now, one thing I did think was interesting when I'm ranking receivers, I completely don't take in any of their special teams input into it. I think that's what Sam did. I think Sam took his FCS, like his receiving output, which was really good in 2023, but also he took his return output as a punt returner and as a kick returner. He's the best punt returner in the country, one of the best kick returners in the country. Like, that's a fact. But I would count that as special teams play. But I don't disagree that Junior Bergen is probably the best receiver in FCS football. When you take his full gambit of skills, he can play on the outside, he can play in the slot. You can give him jet sweeps. I mean, he can do it all as a receiver. Number 2 on that list was Espn Chisholm at Eastern Washington. Personally, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of do think, and this isn't to crap on anybody, but I do think it was more of a down year for receivers in the FCS last year. Somebody can comment on that if you think I'm wrong about that, but I think it was more of a down year for receivers in the FCS from everybody involved, not just, these Big Sky receivers. I think it was just a down year for passing yardage and receiving yards. I don't think it was one of the better years. But Espn Chisholm, really good receiver in the FCS, been really high on him for a long time. Junior Bergen, Espn Chisholm at number 2, Bo Belquist at North Dakota at number 3, and then you got some South Dakota guys in there. I think honestly the Missouri Valley had the most receivers in here. But I think it was interesting to see that the Big Sky had 5 receivers. Those 5 are Christian Fredrickson at number 24 from Idaho State. You have Keelan White at number 17 from Montana. You had Jared Gibson at Sacramento State at number 13. And then the last 2 were Espn Chisholm and Junior Bergen. I think this is Montana had 2 receivers on the list too, so I think that says something about Montana. Aaron Fonts did not make the list. I think he'd probably be top 30, top 35. I think he could have made the top 25. Obviously, I don't know the stats, or I don't know a lot of these receivers. Like, I haven't studied a lot of these receivers, but I think Aaron had around 600 receiving yards last year. I think he was right around 600 receiving yards. So nothing crazy. Most of these guys on this list probably have more than that, but I don't know if he's just taking receiving yards into account, because, if you look at Junior Bergen had less receiving yards than Espn Chisholm, and Espn Chisholm is number 2. That's why, like I said, Sam is taking in return his full gambit of skills as a football player, not just a receiver. He ends up playing receiver, but I guess he's saying the best football player that plays the receiver position, which would make sense because Junior Bergen is probably the best player in the country, one of the best players in the country. We could have a strong debate about that, but I would stand on a hill to say Junior Bergen is probably the top 5 player in the country, and I don't think it's particularly close. I don't think it's outlandish to say he's a top 5 player in the country. I don't even know if anybody would argue that. So, I will say this. I expect there to be multiple 1,000-yard receivers out of Montana in 2024. I could see Keelan getting over 1,000 in 2024, and I could also see Junior Bergen getting over 1,000 in 2024. I don't know about Aaron. Obviously, he would be that 3rd receiver for me. I don't know if we would see 3,000-yard receivers from an FCS school. I don't know. Obviously, it's going to depend on quarterback play for Montana for those receivers to see if they are able to get over 1,000. But that is one of my bold predictions coming into 2024. I see 2 Montana receivers getting over 1,000 yards. I really do. I could see them making a deep playoff run. Last year they made a deep playoff run. That's what got them close to 800. But I'm hoping and I'm saying that they're going to get more than 1,000. 2 receivers. Montana's going to have 2,000-yard receivers in 2024. 2,000-yard receivers. I think also another thing I want to say. I think the Big Sky is the best passing league in the FCS. I'm counting the Missouri Valley receivers on here as I'm saying that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They got more than Montana. They got more than Big Sky. Either way, I don't feel any trepidation by saying that. I think the Big Sky has the best receiving, is the best passing league in the FCS. I think they spread the ball out the most. Montana can throw the ball around the place. Montana State not really trying to throw the ball. Eastern Washington can throw the ball around. Sac State can throw the ball around. I'm trying to think about the rest of the conference. I'm going blank on the rest of the conference, but I think there's some really good passing teams in the Big Sky. You guys let me know in the comments if you guys think I'm outlandish for saying that, but I would be willing to stand on the table and pound my fist and say the Big Sky is the best passing league in the FCS. Yeah. I think coming in close to them would probably be, I mean, you could say the CAA, but the CAA would probably be up there just because they have 16 teams in their conference. I mean, that's a really big conference. And then obviously the Missouri Valley, they have the better quarterbacks, two of the best quarterbacks, but like North Dakota State's not throwing the ball all over the place. South Dakota State's, they can throw the ball, but they're not trying to throw the ball all over the place. They're kind of more multiple, really more ground game with both of those teams. So, I think the Big Sky is one of the conferences where, you got a lot of teams that are pass first. I mean, Idaho State, I forget about Idaho State. They throw the ball all over the place. They had a bunch of receivers last year that could play really good football. And, I don't feel any type of way about saying that. I stand on that, and I'm sticking with that. You guys let me know what you think about that. But that was Sam Herder's top 25 returning FCS wide receivers that we just spoke about. You guys let me know what you guys think about that in the comments, and we will move on. Okay, next we are talking about the top 10 returning FCS running backs in 2024. This is a list by Zack McKinnell, FCS Blue Bloods. Please go check him out, or FCS Football Central, not FCS Blue Bloods. But I think his Twitter is FCS Blue Bloods, and I also think his YouTube page is FCS Blue Bloods as well. So go check him out. He does a lot of work, but he has a partnership with SI Sports Illustrated, FCS Football Central. You guys can find that. He does a lot of good work for FCS football, drops a lot of articles. He's talking about the top 10 FCS running backs, returning FCS running backs in 2024. And we're going to look at the list. I have a disagreement with this list. I do. So on the list, we got number 10, Montana State, Julius Davis. Not mad at that. Number 9, we got Eli Gilman from Montana. Young guy. Didn't get over 1,000 yards, but had a really good season last year. I'm not mad at that. You got number 8, Bronson Yoder from William and Mary. Don't know much about him, but I mean, I'm not really mad about any of these. I'm only mad about one, and I'll get there. Jordan Fuller from Holy Cross, FCS All-American. Amar Johnson from South Dakota State. He was behind Isaiah Davis. I think he could have a really good season in 2024. I think he'd have a really good season in 2024. I think he's a senior this year as well. Marcus Yarns, really good receiver. He's a fast guy. I think he was kind of hurt last year late in the season, but he flashed against Montana in the playoffs, and I think he could have a really good season. I'm not mad at that one either. This is where my problems come in, guys. This is where they come in. Jamar Curtis at 4. Now, let me be clear. Let me be clear with you guys. I think that Lan Larison is a very good running back. One of the top players in the Big Sky Conference. Probably top 5 player in the Big Sky Conference. Like, I don't have any problem saying that. But when you look at freaking Jamar Curtis and what he was able to do in 2024, like, when I look at Jamar Curtis and what he was able to do in 2023, I don't know. 1,460 rushing yards, 15 rushing touchdowns, 164 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns, a new single season program record for rushing yards. Like, I mean, this dude, FCS All-American, a Walter Payton Award finalist, like, Jamar Curtis was him in 2023, man. Him. And obviously this is biased. I 100% will tell you I've been high on Jamar Curtis all offseason. I'm very biased. I personally, Zack, I love this list, Zack. I love the work you do for the FCS. I personally would have put Jamar Curtis at number 1, and then I would have just slid the list up from there. Jamar Curtis 1, Lan Larison at 2. I didn't say the last 2. Shun Derek Powell from Central Arkansas. He's number 2 on Zach's list. And then number 3 above Jamar Curtis was Kayvon Britton, Tarleton State. He rushed for 1,100 yards, 16 rushing touchdowns. He ranked number 4 nationally in rushing touchdowns and number 11 in rushing yards. He was all SWAC, FCS All-American. He had a really good season. Shun Derek Powell also had a really good season. I think he had just over 1,000 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns in 11 games last season. Like, see, that's the thing is, like, Jamar Curtis, first off, played all season. Like, Injuries happen. Injuries happen. Land Larison got hurt and only played like 8 games, had 1,100 rushing yards. Like, that is ridiculous. Land Larison, I might put Jamar Curtis too, because Land Larison was having a really good season last year before he got hurt. Really good player. Really, really good player. It's like the heart and soul of that UC Davis squad. So I don't so much have a problem with that. But I would probably put Jamar Curtis too. Realistically, I don't think Shunderick Powell, I haven't watched a lot of him, but I don't think Shunderick Powell was better than Jamar Curtis, and I don't think Kayvon Britton was better than Jamar Curtis in 2023. Although Tarleton State did have a decent year last year, and so did Central Arkansas. They both were pretty decent, I think, in that United Athletic Conference. Not terrible teams in that conference, so I'm not so much super mad about those because those teams weren't bad teams, and those players obviously weren't bad players, but 1,400 rushing yards, I mean, Zack, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Like I said, once again, I will say I'm biased of Jamar Curtis. I think he's a really good player. I'm really high on him. I love his game. I love his skill set. I love everything he brings to the table. But I'm not mad at this list, really. Great work, Zack. Great work. You guys let me know in the comments what you guys thought about that list. I'm really high on a lot of these running backs. Land Larison, obviously, I just put him in my best player from UC Davis. Obviously, I don't think anybody would dispute that. I dropped my best players from the Big Sky Conference from each team last week, so you guys can go check that out. But you guys go check the list out from Zack McKinnell. You can find that on FCS Football Central. Comment on it. Let me know what you guys think about it, and I will move on. Hey, my last topic of the day. More of a shorter day today. Don't have a lot of topics to tackle. It's kind of that weird time in the offseason where there's not a lot of things to talk about. The transfer portal is closed, so not a lot of guys moving around. There's just not a lot going on in the FCS right now. Not a lot going on in college football right now outside of like administrative things, schedule releases, the college football game, all of that good stuff. But one question I had that I wanted to ask to the masses, this is an FCS question. If you put rival QBs on the opposing team, what is the team's record in 2023? So I only have Missouri Valley and Montana examples because I don't know much about all of the rivalries outside of those two big conferences. So apologies for that. I have a lot of Big Sky knowledge. I have a decent Missouri Valley football conference knowledge. But outside of that, like, I don't have a lot of knowledge about the rivalries and like what the nature of them are. So that is why I didn't list them. The rivalries. So like, if you put Tommy Mellott on Montana in 2023, what is their record? I think they probably have a similar record. In 2023 if you put Tommy Mellott. But conversely, if you put Clifton McDowell on Montana State, what is their record? I think Montana State, I might ruffle some feathers saying this, but I think Montana State is probably a better squad in 2023 if they have Clifton McDowell. Just because I think he has a little bit more durability than a Tommy Mellott. I mean, we saw him get hurt late in the season, but for the most part, I think Clifton was mostly healthy last year. Obviously, he's not being run as much as Tommy, so kind of operating from like not enough knowledge really. But I think Montana State probably is a little better in 2023 if they have Clifton McDowell running things as a quarterback. I know a lot of Montana State fans are probably going to disagree with me there, but, I think they're probably a little better. Now, obviously, like, one of the biggest problems for Montana State in 2023 was not the quarterback play, it was their kicking game. Like, they literally they missed on so many points because of their kicking game in 2023. It's just crazy thinking about how many games they lost or potentially could have lost because of their kicking game. Like, I think they lost to Idaho because of their kicking game. They definitely lost to North Dakota State because of their kicking game. I don't know what happened in that South Dakota State game. I never really watched that game through and through. I only watched some of the highlights and the ending. I think they got hoed at the end. I will say that. But I don't know enough about Montana outside of those two games to say, but their kicking game was terrible last year. Terrible. So to say, but I do think Clifton McDowell probably is a little bit more durable than Tommy, because Clifton McDowell did run a healthy bit last year. That was one of the best things he did. And, Tommy Mellott was hurt a lot last year, and that kind of hurt them. Not having Tommy Mellott on the field is always going to hurt your team. He's the best player on your team. Not having him on the field is going to hurt them. So I think Montana State's record is a little better in 2023 if they have Clifton McDowell, and I think, Montana's record is probably the same. Montana was
13-2 last year. I think they're probably 13-2 with Tommy Mellott. I truly do. So you guys let me know. We'll move on. Cam Miller on South Dakota State. Does South Dakota State win a national championship if Cam Miller is the quarterback? I would say yes. I think Mark Gronowski and Cam Miller are very similar players. I think Mark Gronowski runs better than Cam Miller. I don't think anybody would dispute that. But I think as throwers of the football, they're very similar. Cam Miller's probably a little more accurate. But Mark Gronowski's more of your prototypical size, strength, just the look and feel of a quarterback. But they both get the job done at a very high level. They're both national champions. Cam Miller won a national championship as a freshman, and then Mark Gronowski's won back-to-back, went to one as a freshman, got hurt in that game. Probably would have won that game had he not got hurt. That was a really close game with Sam Houston State and during the COVID year. If you guys haven't seen that game, please go check it out. It was an amazing game. Really amazing game for Sam Houston to come out with the win. But Cam Miller, I think South Dakota State probably does win the national championship with Cam Miller. And then Mark Gronowski on NDSU. That's the thing. If you throw Mark Gronowski on NDSU, I don't think their record is any different either, because I don't think quarterback was their problem. Cam Miller was one of the most efficient passers in FCS football last year. So I think North Dakota State probably has the same record because I don't think quarterback play was their problem in 2023. You guys let me know what you guys think about that one. I don't have too many thoughts about that because I think those are those are the two best quarterbacks in FCS football. So I don't think there's much you can say about if the records on either team would have been different. Tommy Schuster, if Tommy Schuster was on South Dakota, that was the North Dakota quarterback. He's at an FBS team. He transferred away. He's at Michigan State now. But if he was on South Dakota, what would their record be? I think it's probably around the same. I think South Dakota more leaned on their defense in 2023 than their offense. I think their offense was good enough to get the job done. Obviously, they beat NDSU in the regular season. They beat a lot of good teams. I think they only lost one conference game to South Dakota State. Other than that, they ran the table in the Missouri Valley Conference. So probably the same outfit. Aiden Bowman on North Dakota. I don't know. I think Aiden Bowman's more of a young guy. I think he was a sophomore last year in 2023. Not so sure what North Dakota would have been. I mean, once again, North Dakota and South Dakota were two really good teams in 2023. Like I said, South Dakota leaned on their defense, so I don't think Tommy Schuster would have changed anything from that standpoint. Aiden Bowman, I don't know much about him as a quarterback, but like I said, he didn't have to do too much. Obviously, he did enough. They got some really good receivers. Carter Bell is one of the good receivers at South Dakota, but with North Dakota, Cole Belquist, really good receiver for North Dakota. I think these records are probably similar too with North Dakota and South Dakota. I think their records are probably the same, if maybe a game or two different, plus or minus, but I think they're probably the same. They're probably two playoff teams like they were in 2023. You guys let me know what you think about that. And then the last one, Idaho, if Giovanni McCoy played for Idaho State and if Jordan Cook played for Idaho. Well, I'll say this. Jordan Cook threw 12 touchdowns last year and 13 interceptions. I think if Jordan Cook was on Idaho last year, they are not a playoff team, and they're not in the running for winning the Big Sky Conference. Nothing against Jordan Cook. It's just what he put on tape last year. I don't think Idaho is the same team if he's the quarterback. Now, on the other side of things, Idaho State likes to throw the ball all over the place. And you also have a Giovanni McCoy who can use his legs very successfully. I think Idaho State is probably where Idaho was last year if you put Giovanni McCoy on that team. I do. I mean, Idaho State throws the ball all over the place. They had three really good receivers. They had Cyrus. They had Christian Fredrickson, who they still have now, and then they had Chaden James, who is gone now, but three really good receivers with Giovanni McCoy, who's now at Oregon State. I think they're a really good I think if Idaho State had him, they would be a really, really good team. So you guys can let me know what you guys think about that, but that is what I think, and I'm sticking with it. You guys let me know if there's any other interesting quarterback swaps or even other position swaps that you guys think about that you think, what would that look like? What would that look like had it been a little different in 2023? I thought this was just something interesting that I could do, that I wanted to look at, think about, and talk about, and wanted to bring it up to you guys. So you guys let me know what you guys think about that in the comments, and we will move on. Okay, that is going to conclude my Tuesday video today. I want to thank you guys for tapping in. Thank you guys for giving me views. Thank you guys for liking the channel. Thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. Continue to subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you leave me a comment down below of what you guys like about this, what you guys don't like, what you guys want me to cover next week. I think I'm going to get back to asking for questions as we're getting closer to the regular season. Answer some of those questions you guys got at the end of my videos. But thank you guys for tapping in. I will catch you guys next week. See you later.